The train is departing from the first platform.
Hurry up! We have to. Mom's there! We have to make it to her! Damn. Mother! Come on! Come on, a little more! We can. Stop! We've missed it! This can't be happening! Mom, it's your fault! And now I have to stay with you? Why did I hate him? Because he took my mother. Before my father's illness, we trusted each other. But then I felt that my mother was moving away. My father's death destroyed me and my mother. She never discussed it and avoided me. My mother would rush off somewhere after work, saying that she was going out with her friends to distract herself. But something was wrong. Why did she dress up for a bunch of housewives? They've known each other for 100 years. The answer became my nightmare. One evening, my mother brought home a homeless? Moreover, she said that this was her new husband. I almost fell out of my chair. Of course, my mother tried to make him look more decent, but this didn't smooth the situation. She sat us down at the table and blushing, she told us how she went to bars after work to calm her grief. She stayed up late one night, her phone went dead and got lost. Some guys were disturbing her and then Ray appeared. He dispersed all of them and helped Mom to call a taxi. After that, they quickly became close. Became close? What was she thinking? Not even 6 months passed after Dad's death. How could she fall in love with a homeless? I shouted that this damn homeless man would never replace my dad and ran outside in my pajamas. I went to see my friend Kate, but she said she couldn't let me in. They had guests and they just had no place for me to stay. So-called best friend. Then it got colder and started to rain. And I was cold to the bone as I trudged along. My tears were mixing with the raindrops. So I got to the train station. I came inside. It was blowing hard, and many people suspiciously stared at my home outfit. By midnight, I was feeling very uncomfortable, and the thought of hot cocoa was driving me crazy. I came back home, but assured them both that it would not be for long. My mother pretended that nothing had happened, and the homeless, I won't ever call him Ray, was annoying me with his fawning. He made a lousy breakfast the next morning and tried to talk about school with me, and then he gave me a disgusting bag, saying it's a fashionable dress. I told him that it was more of his style, and that he had to stop stealing money from Mom for trash. Then my mother freaked out and said that she had had enough. We were all going to the vacation by the sea. She had already bought tickets. Brilliant. That's the only thing we needed. I thought about running away again, but I was worried about my mother. I didn't want to hurt her. She didn't look very well. We still went on a vacation and I decided to ignore the homeless so as not to lead to a scandal. Then my mother started talking about all wonderful events that we can visit there. I immediately replied that I wasn't interested in all that. I was going to read on the beach. The homeless man intervened and suggested that I could go with them to please my mother. Why on earth would he point me out? In the end, we started bickering. Mom jumped up to separate us when suddenly she collapsed on the floor. She was holding her heart and looking deathly pale. No! The train stopped and the homeless man rushed to find a pharmacy. But my mother came to her senses, although she was weak. She told me that the homeless had forgotten the money, so I put bills on my hand and ran to him. We bought some medicine, but the train, well, you already know. All our belongings left with my sick mother, even my phone. This jerk, not surprisingly, did have one. It was all because of him again. Couldn't he take the wallet right away? What would happen to Mom then? The station master said that it was closing and we had to leave, adding, "Ask all of your questions tomorrow." I couldn't even make a phone call, so I had to find a phone on the highway. There wasn't a soul on the road. We tried to stop a car for hours, but no one would stop. Sure, I wouldn't trust such a suspicious character either. The homeless man blamed it on the fact that it was late and the station was remote. Well, yeah, of course. But we still were lucky enough to find a phone booth. My stepfather scraped the last change out of his pockets and called my mother. She wasn't available. That only increased my panic. It turned out that we couldn't decide anything until morning, and we had to look for a night's lodging. Drenched to the skin, I dreamed of any shabby eatery. Finally, we saw a lonely motel. Hallelujah! The stepfather asked the attendant something to eat and spend the night for some work, but he refused, saying that the owner strictly monitors the guests. Damn diplomat! He told me to wait inside, and then he went to the beggar at the entrance to find out about housing. God, I wanted to know something about my mother. What if she was lying there in the compartment, unconscious? The admin behaved more kindly with me. His refusal was clearly associated with dislike for the homeless. We agreed on this, and I even replied to his questions that he was just a random traveling companion. Then the attendant hinted that I could personally arrange a night's lodging if I act nice with him. Well, someone clearly overestimated his attractiveness. I was trying to figure out how to trick him, but my stepfather stormed into the motel, furious. The admin got hit in the face and we left, with no food, no shelter. Well, thank you so much. The homeless man said that we can spend the night at the abandoned post office. It was clear that the beggar he met used to hang out there. Real ruins with rotted roof. There wasn't much room to sleep. But I wouldn't have slept a wink anyway. Thinking about my sick mother made me feel feverish. Instead of a normal dinner, he offered me expired garbage from the motel dump. It looked edible, but this loser couldn't even build a fire to cook it. I was very angry. If he hadn't intervened in the conversation, I probably would have been able to sort everything out with the admin. All of a sudden, a few high-strung guys came to our wigwam, and they obviously didn't come to save us. It turned out that we were ratted out by a beggar who worked for the motel's owner. It smelled like a postal massacre, but my stepfather managed to dump the boxes on the gang at the last moment, and we scurried back to the road. By dawn, we were back at the station. What else could we do? My stepfather told me that we were behind the train. Without documents, nobody could help us with tickets. But they let us call. With shaking hands, I dialed my mother's number again, and I was answered. An unfamiliar voice said that my mother was in the hospital 100 miles away. After that, the connection was interrupted. Apparently, her phone was dead. Oh God, Mom, we had to find a car right away. We ran to the highway. It was busy in the morning, and my stepfather was able to catch a truck. Fortunately, the driver offered to give us a lift to the city, but it was too early to be happy. I could smell alcohol in the car. We passed a voting homeless man, and the driver began to complain that they have no life from these rats, sitting on the neck of honest, hard workers like him. Thank God stepfather was silent, but after the phrase scum of society, he still blurted out that it wasn't necessary to generalize. Of course, the driver immediately got angry and began to argue with him. I begged him to watch the road, but it was too late. We got off with a couple of bruises and abrasions. The driver broke his head and lay unconscious. How do we get to Mom then? I got hysterical. I shouted at the homeless man that he always spoils everything. Now we could be connected with the crash. I tried to open the door to leave, but this idiot wouldn't let me in, saying that he was responsible to my mother for me. Who even was he? He was the one who could make my mother die. I would never have gotten into this with my father, who was kind and sensitive, and the homeless man was just a pathetic parody of him. There was a ringing silence, and then I realized I'd gone too far. Ray called the emergency services and cops on the driver's phone and then gave him first aid. All that happened in a few minutes. I was shocked. Where did he learn this? Stepfather grudgingly replied that he was a cop a year ago and he had to help his friends sometimes. Wow. We got out of the car and waited for the rescuers. Ray built us a fire and tried to call my mother again. To no avail. When we warmed up, he suddenly told us that he was fired for abuse of authority. He severely beat a guy who bullied a little girl, and after that, he couldn't get a job anywhere. I felt ashamed that I had judged him so superficially. Ray had been protecting me all the time, and now he was helping a man he had a right to hate. It turned out that my mother chose him for a reason. Rescuers took the driver to the hospital, and we were put in a police car. I was worried about Ray getting in trouble, but policemen just took the statements from us. The officer turned out to be a nice person, and Ray, as an ex-cop, asked him to drop us off at the clinic. Without feeling our legs, we ran to the duty station. We were told that my mother wasn't there. But how? A nurse was running past. She heard our conversation, gave us my mother's bracelet, and rushed on to the surgery. It means my mother died. I couldn't breathe. The hull swam before my eyes, and I kept clutching her bracelet as a support. Ray stood aside, not daring to touch me, but then he couldn't stand it. He started hugging me, saying that no matter what, he would take care of me, and now I was like a daughter to him. And then my mother came into the hall. I was stunned for a second, and then I threw my arms around her. Ray hugged us both, and my mother told us that she just checked out and come back to pick up a forgotten bracelet. She felt great. Her heart was fine. It was just about nerves and overwork. I was happy to see her healthy, and for the first time, I noticed how much Ray loved her. My mother was amazed at how we had become friends during our adventure. I didn't even notice that I started calling Ray by his first name. My mother said that we still should go on vacation together, but then Ray surprised everyone. He said that he was offered a vacancy in the police department. The officer said that they just don't have enough guys like him. Well, it turned out even better. We could rest without him. We agreed to meet when we got back, when he would be transferred to the district police station. I was a little sad, but I was glad Ray had found his place again. After all, life is just one big journey.